Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast.
Today, Donald Trump is waking up in Milwaukee, defiantly ready for day one of the Republican National Convention. Yesterday, he said he would keep to his schedule despite an attempt on his life at a rally over the weekend.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Shots rang out mid-speech, and then there was chaos at the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday as a would-be assassin tried to kill the former U.S. president.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold on, your head is bloody.
So we got to move to the closet. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. Watch out.
Wait.
As the Secret Service ushered Trump off the stage, his face bloodied from where a bullet grazed his ear, he raised his fist and yelled, "Fight." Trump is fine, only slightly injured, says his campaign, but one spectator was killed and two others were injured. The shooter was shot and killed. The assassination attempt has upended the 2024 presidential campaign and inflamed fears of more political violence in the United States. With me now is CBC's Paul Hunter, who is covering the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Duncan.
Paul, we just heard some of it there, but take us back to that moment of the shooting. What do we know about what happened?
It's still not an awful lot, other than the sort of lingering astonishment that it happened at all. It was the last rally for Donald Trump before he was to come to Milwaukee, where indeed he is now. It was deep in Trump country in western Pennsylvania, and the rally had just begun. What we know a little bit more now than we did immediately, unsurprisingly. But what appears to have happened is this young person, the shooter, was spotted sort of outside the perimeter of the rally, outside the magnetometer area, and was deemed kind of a suspicious-looking person, wandered about. That elevated up the security ladder. People were aware of him, and then he kind of disappeared. Next thing you know, he's seen climbing up onto that roof with a long gun, evidently. Still unclear to me how that didn't elevate it much further, but we do know that authorities then tried to climb up onto the roof. Saw him. He evidently turned the gun toward them. The local police, I think it was, sort of dipped his head down. The Secret Service has the what they call counter snipers in place. They saw him. There was a moment of hesitation, and then the shooter fired. And as we know now, within centimeters of it would seem killing Donald Trump, and then the chaos ensued from there. And so all, you asked the question, but really it's still limitless questions that linger. From security failure to what this all means. It's just, it remains this astonishing, incredible moment here in a country where they've seen these things, sadly.
What do we know? What do we know about the shooter, Paul?
Sorry for the cliche. But quiet person who didn't really say an awful lot. The last kind of person you would expect to do this. 20 years old. The rally in Pennsylvania was about 50, 60 kilometers north of Pittsburgh. He lived in a community just to the south of Pittsburgh. There was some talk that he had been bullied and things like this. But there, last we seem to know, there's very little in his social media presence that would indicate anything awry with him. We understand the gun was legally registered to his father. Still unclear how he absolutely came across it on that day. Was it given to him? Did he just take it from his dad? His dad, when he was contacted by police, seemed to still be processing it all, and there seemed to be no immediate suggestion that there was any other involvement within the family. That he just went and did it. He is registered as a Republican, the 20-year-old. He gave a $15 donation to I'm not sure if it was to the Democrats or to sort of a left-leaning, or I think it was to the Democrats. But no real indication of politics or anything like that. He just went to do it, it seems, at this point.
Paul, over the years, you've spent a lot of time covering Trump supporters. How do you expect them to react to this assassination attempt on Trump?
I think this will motivate Trump supporters beyond imagination. And this is where it becomes a supreme challenge for Joe Biden. The issue now is all about motivation. Political support in this country, as divided as it is also deeply baked in. Smidges of movement in either direction over recent time. The difference for Donald Trump has always been that his supporters are motivated to get off their bums on Election Day and get out and vote. And the problem for Joe Biden has been, certainly between issues in the Middle East, with his age and such, that people who would not go and vote for Donald Trump will just stay home. This, one of the implications of this is that it will motivate Donald Trump voters more than they ever have been before to get out and make sure that the so-called chosen one, the one who is strong versus the one who is weak. This reinforces everything about Donald Trump. Number one, the fear, of course, is that it will motivate. The secondary impact it'll have on Trump voters is to go out and seek some sort of vengeance, to blame the left, to blame the Democrats, and to do something, dare I say it, in return. There's no evidence that would happen, but that is a fear.
But you mentioned the polarization, Paul. In an address to the nation last night, President Joe Biden condemned the violence, calling for unity. Let's listen to a brief part of that.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence, ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. The political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that.
That's President Joe Biden. Donald Trump also is rewriting his convention speech to call for unity. He says, how likely is any kind of unity in the aftermath of this? Zero,
I think. I landed in Milwaukee yesterday, and as I drove downtown, inside one of the office buildings was on a giant TV screen, it wasn't a poster, was a still image of Trump with his fist raised, being carried off the stage that day. When was it? On Saturday. Feels like we're talking about a historic moment, but on Saturday. You've seen social media; those images are plastered throughout it in ugly ways already. The conspiracy theories that this was inspired by Biden's words, saying we got to put Trump in the spotlight and things like that. This gets back to what I was saying about how the feelings are baked in, and there is no conversation about politics in this country. It's just vitriol and hatred. The divide is that deep and that stark. And so to call for unity, well, that's fine in another time. And it does not feel as if this country will allow itself to find unity in the aftermath of something like this, because this just reinforces the feelings, the deeply held feelings that had already existed.
About 30 seconds left, Paul, but the FBI said yesterday there's already been an uptick in threats of violence online since Saturday. How concerned are folks about the potential for more political violence?
Very. I mean, the security we're right at the edge of the security perimeter here, where we had already in Milwaukee, where we had already anticipated there may well be trouble prior to Saturday. Now they've stepped it up. The fear is that somebody somewhere or people somewhere will now say, well, we have to ensure, look, there's this threat against our guy, the guy that is going to save America. This is from the Trump supporting perspective. We have to make sure that he gets in because they're out to get him. This reinforces all the ugly, awful feelings that so many had. I'm trying not to generalize here because this is not true for everyone, right? But there are enough people out there who the fear is, who will just see this as a threat against the person they see as the chosen one to get America back on track to the America that they want, the America that they believe Trump can get them to, the one that he has promised he will.
Paul Hunter, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
CBC News' Paul Hunter in Milwaukee covering the Republican National Convention. Ben Proto is a Trump supporter and is also in Milwaukee for the convention. He's the Connecticut Republican Party chair and a member of the Republican National Committee. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here, Duncan. Good morning.
How are you making sense of what happened Saturday?
I've been here in Milwaukee since last Sunday and have been watching, obviously prior to Saturday, the city kind of being transformed as it is every 4 years for both the Republican and Democratic conventions. We're being told that the security that was being put in place prior to Saturday is the same that we're going to see post-Saturday. I think we may see some additional law enforcement around. But what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is, we had a great event last night with tens of thousands of people in an open air facility by the water. No one was concerned. No one seemed to be worried that there was going to be any issues. I've heard from family and friends back home. They are concerned. I said, look, I'm in the most secure city, the most protected city in the country right now. So, I was listening to what Paul was saying. I'm not overly concerned about this week here in Milwaukee. Looking at what, happened on Saturday, it was tragic. It was confusing. I think people are still confused by it. They're still wondering, why did this young man do this? There doesn't seem to be a political reason for it.
Well, how much do you think that political polarization has to do with an assassination attempt like this?
Well, we don't know what his motivations were, do we? And I think, you and many other people in the media are speculating. This is a young man who had, no political involvement prior, from what we're hearing, had never had any involvement in law, not even a traffic ticket, a parking violation. So the question is, was this politically motivated or was this something else? I think there's a lot of speculation out there as to what it is. There's trying to be a lot, I think, comparisons to the Ronald Reagan shooting in 1981 with John Hinckley. And we know John Hinckley's wasn't politically motivated. He was trying to impress Jodie Foster. What was doing here? So I think there's a lot of speculation. I think the speculation drives a lot of issues that maybe if we turn down the speculation some from both the media and a lot of the pundits, it would be a better way to move.
There are some prominent right-wing voices in the U.S. who've said the Democrats are responsible for this. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, frontrunner for Trump's VP pick, posted on X, and I'll quote this, the central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all cost. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. What does that kind of statement tell you?
It tells me that J.D. Vance is making a statement of his opinion. And again, until we know really what I think the motivations of this young man, if we ever know what they are, it's all speculation. Look, I think at the end of the day, Duncan, I agree with, what we've heard from both President Biden and from Donald Trump recently, that we got to turn this down a little bit. And, I've talked to a lot of reporters across the country, a lot in Connecticut, obviously. And, I really think, voters really want to know where we're going. And I think we need to kind of turn the debate and discussion around and talk about where we're going and what we're doing, not about the past, not about other people. And I'm hoping that we're going to see and hear that bit of a change from Donald Trump this week in Milwaukee. We're beginning to hear it from President Biden. So I think we're going to see a movement, hopefully them trying to ratchet down the flame a bit and get it more on track on a political discussion.
You're hoping that there'll be a change in Donald Trump's rhetoric, but
Joe Biden. If we're going to talk about this, let's talk about both sides.
What will it take to ratchet down that temperature?
I think them talking about it and talking in a different way, talking about the issues more, less about personalities and more about issues, which is what I think the American public wants to talk about.
How does Saturday's shooting, how's it going to change what happens at the Republican National Convention this week?
Other than I think maybe some changes in what's going to be said during speeches, we're being told there's no change in our schedule. There's no change in the direction and themes of each of the evenings. And so I'm suspecting and expecting that we're going to see a really great convention. We're going to see some really good discussion. And I think what we're going to see over this week is what has been planning for us to be seen over the last number of months.
You don't sound worried, Ben Proto. What? How confident are you right now in the state of American democracy?
Well, I'll take my democracy over Canada's democracy any day of the week. And I say that with all due respect to my friends to the north. Our democracy has survived much worse than this over our history. So I'm not at all worried about our democracy. I think, we will continue to be very strong and moving forward. And we will continue to be the America that we've always been.
So let's shift to the convention. What are the aims of the convention this week? You say that the American public wants to talk about the issues. What is going to be talked about from your perspective?
I think we're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about the border. We're going to talk about world events. We're going to talk about, making American families stronger, more self-sufficient, being really able to ensure the future generations are in a position to enjoy the many things that we have been enjoying over our past and through my lifetime.
This is extraordinary, though, Ben Proto. What do you want to hear from Donald Trump about unity in this campaign?
Well, I want to hear about how we're going to bring America back, how we're going to restore the middle class in America, how we're going to protect our southern border. How America is going to get out of the doldrums that we've been over the last 3.5 years of Joe Biden and the Democrats. It's no great secret, and it's not only here. So I think we're going to hear a lot of how we're going to move America in a more positive direction.
But I want to ask you the same question that I asked Paul Hunter. The FBI is saying that there has already, again, since Saturday, there's been a threat, more threats of violence. And how concerned are you that there's going to be more political violence in the weeks and months ahead?
Look, I think that's always been a concern. We've seen social media light up with that, over the last many years. And we've heard the vitriol on both sides and, people making statements on both sides. Whether it's followed through or not, I don't see that happening, particularly here in Milwaukee this week. And I'm hopeful. And I think we have to remain hopeful. We have to remain vigilant, as we always do. But I'm remaining hopeful that, there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, Duncan. And, whether that translates into some other type of warrior action, I truthfully have not seen it. And I think Saturday may be a bit of an aberration over what we're seeing. Again, we don't know what motivated this young man. And I think at the end of the day, we may find out that there's absolutely no political motivation to it whatsoever.
Okay, we will leave it there. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you. Have a great day, Duncan.
Ben Proto is the Connecticut Republican Party chair and a member of the Republican National Committee.